Hi, Louise.
Hello, Thelma. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to be back out with everybody
It is.
tonight or today.
I just want to say a quick thank you for all the kind comments about the engagement pictures that we posted. That was really sweet of all of you. We had a lot of fun that night, even though we don't really like taking pictures.
Well, to me, it just captured happiness. And as Louise's mom, I couldn't be happier for you because I see the happiness when the two of you are together. So
We had fun. We
I'm
had a lot of fun.
grateful that you found a good soulmate in life. And
Thank you.
the wedding's getting closer, so we spend a little more time working on all those details of the wedding, and we're thankful it's at my mom and dad's farm so that we don't have to worry about any of the COVID
No.
rules. So
Restrictions or not, we're getting married September 12th.
woohoo.
That wine smells awfully delicious.
Well, you know, today when I left work, actually we're filming a day ahead of what you're watching, and so tomorrow, July 15th, the day that you're watching Thelma and Louise, is the tax deadline day.
Whoop, whoop, we made it.
Yeah. And my boss told me tonight when I went home I was supposed to have a glass of red wine because he needed me to be at my best tomorrow for that last day. So
I'm not
just
sure telling you to go home and drink wine is going to make you at your best tomorrow. You might be hungover when you roll into work.
I told
You
him
didn't
that
think
too.
that through very well.
I just told him if he really wanted my best work that I should probably be able to have that wine at the office
That
just in
only
case it
makes
gets a
sense.
little frantic. But he's not in favor of creative accounting, so
Shoot.
I guess I'll have it tonight with you. And
While we talk about lovely projects that nobody ever got to see from the quilt shop.
so believe it or not, sometimes when we design, we take our fabric, sew it together, and we don't create that pattern while we're creating our project. And when we get done, we feel like we like it or we don't like
Or
it.
we couldn't get the fabric and we didn't want to make another one right away.
And so
it just gets put aside.
we've accumulated this stack of
It's part of a stack.
projects that maybe
like.
someday will
We
end
do.
up being a
As a
pattern.
matter of fact, when we packed up the shop, the box that they were in says redo ASAP. And that was what?
2 years ago.
Yeah, they didn't get redone ASAP. We just moved on.
ASAP can mean many different things.
It could. Absolutely. Well, let's dive into one of these.
This little
Oh.
project I really liked. This combined cotton piecing along with wool applique, and I've just never ever done the pattern for it. So
By the way, I love how almost all these are quilted. We have quilt tops we haven't finished, but all of these that you see, really the only thing that we were missing is the pattern to go with them.
So also, if you want to put a suggestion on our Facebook page as to any of these that you'd like to see happen in a pattern, we'd appreciate that. And maybe it'll move it up to the top
Might
of the list.
inspire us. So one of us is very much lacking motivation to be doing something different. I'm in a rut.
And I'm excited because after tomorrow, I'm going to be home to create. This
Oh, I
little
remember
guy
this
is
little guy
from
too.
a charm pack, and it's just a wonky
Log cabin.
log cabin with my favorite prairie points on the outside edge, and then I added a little bit of lace to the outside edge as well. This next project also has lace on it. This uses a little template, and I don't really remember if I used a charm pack with that one or if it's a candy. I believe it was a charm pack. And I was more fond of the fabric when I looked at it in the pictures than I actually was when I got it put together. So that's part of the problem why that just ended up laying. This also is a charm pack
Honey bun.
pattern. Honey bun pattern. I'm sorry, I don't know the difference.
Honey buns are sweeter than charms.
And notice the jagged edges.
Just like her daughter.
Yeah. Tell us about this
Well,
little
this
guy.
is a bright little guy that, you know what, part of the cutting directions are typed. It's called tumbleweed, and never tumbled into the quilt shop. Part of it's because the fabric was really bright, so I ordered design yardage that's really bright and then do it in something darker so that when we go out on the road or do stuff like this, you can see what things look like in different color variations. And I never made it again.
Well, one of my favorite patterns is actually a Dresden. And so this little guy has kind of a twisted look to it, and then a real Dresden on the outer edge. And again, it's all finished off, and I just never typed the directions for it. So I think by the time we got it done, we were sold out of our charm
fabric
packs,
and
and so it
that was
didn't
it.
really create hurriance to get it done.
Once upon a time, there was a girl who decided to test her mom's pattern. And when she got it sewn together, she realized she botched the whole directions. So we finished it off like this.
Made your own pattern, did you?
Yep. Never finished it after that.
And that fabric looks a lot like this one, which was called Garden Baskets. And it too, I believe I may have a pattern for it, but we didn't have fabric for it, so it just never really made
got
its
it
way
done.
out into society. Oh,
And
another Dresden. Curved edges on this one, wool applique in the corners along with some lace embellishing in it. And again, not sure why I never made a pattern off of it, but maybe someday it can be an inspiration piece.
Well, I'll show this bright thing off. Again, please keep in mind that I order very bright stuff on our design yardage and then test it back out of stuff that fits a shop, because this does not fit into anything we'd use in our house. But it's very modern and it's very bright. It's got a lot of potential.
I'm
But-
sorry for the dog barking, but of course I can't film without somebody being wound up about something.
It's got a lot of potential, but it never made it any farther than this.
The dog's now wearing the quilt, just so you know.
You know, it's kind of like wearing like a, what do you call the thing? Not a saddle on a horse. We have to put the thing down first
Yeah, you
before
put
you
a
put
horse
the saddle.
blanket
There
on
you
them.
go. Yeah,
Nope.
except this was a dog blanket. We're not gonna ride the dog.
Thank
I used to when I
goodness.
was little though. I thought that was really fun. Same thing, this little guy. Can you make something out of a mini charm pack? Yep, you can. Did we finish the directions? Nope.
This is a project that I used wool with. Wool, this is completely wool, just a little like wool rug, wool mat.
This used flannel on the outer edges.
So wool and flannel, and this one is all flannel, done with applique. And once again, we had a lot of interest in it, but I just never ever did the pattern. Sometimes it's pretty hard to go back to something that you've finished.
Table runner with a nice blessing on it.
Simple block to do.
So some of you may remember the haunted house that you did.
Oh yeah,
And we went from the haunted house to the cute little,
Cupids. So at one time when I started doing this, I did the haunted house, and that was so popular for us. I think I decided I was going to do a house for every month. Well, we have two. It seems to me
it's
there's
never
12
too late
months
to do
in the
more,
year.
right?
Last but not least,
I embroidered that little guy out, framed it off, and didn't do anything. It's got a nice saying on it. Does that kind of pertain to the times we live in now?
most likely.
Faith is the key to the doorway of fear. Courage enables us to walk into the darkness, and our companion trust illuminates our footsteps.
And so on that note, something very interesting happened to me yesterday. So, you know, I have a pattern called Strengths of Life. Little did I know that our Strengths of Life pattern that you see right here, which has been just a tremendous selling pattern for us, it's went all over the world. I had someone call me and tell me that one of my blocks in my pattern looked like her signature block. And if any of you were in the shop when I used to design crazy quilt patterns, would know that I take whatever shape that I'm going to create, be it a circle, a rectangle, a diamond, and take a ruler and a lead pencil, and I draw my
Randomly. Very
sections
randomly.
into my creating part of that background.
And a few times I've had to redo it because you didn't write down which pieces touch what.
Yeah, it's like putting a puzzle together, and if you
Mhm.
don't label your sections, it
You
can be
get
very
stuck in a hurry.
difficult to put it back together again. And I did my pattern back in 2016, and so much to my surprise, I got a letter in the mail from a lady claiming that my block in my quilt was identical to hers. And you can imagine the horror that I had, because in no way, shape, or form I did not know the lady.
Nor is that
Did I
ever
copy
our end
anybody's
goal.
work? And so we've kind of discussed this some, that with designing, you may create a quilt or a wool project that uses a shape or a block that I really don't know how they can copyright it, period, in regards to a quilt block. Like a churn dash block is a churn dash block. Nobody can really say that that is their own and that they own that block. Thank goodness when I came home and I looked at my block to the lady's block, because she sent the block along with her letter, my block looked similar, but it was not a match identically to her block. It's made both of us kind of take a step back and go, do we want to keep doing this? It's just, I don't know, I can't wrap my head around.
We try really hard to stay off of the internet when we do stuff. And I will be the first to admit I've got something hanging in the house that nobody's ever seen, because when it finished, it looked so stinking close to something already out on the market that we just never used it because we don't want to be like that. And it does kind of make you step back and go, oh man, what else have we done that people are going to be like, oh, they stole that idea.
So the internet is good for a lot of things. When I told my husband how disappointed I was and how horrible I felt and how worried that I was about the whole thing, he told me that, sometimes that internet, people are on the internet, they're comparing things to one another. It's very, very helpful for us, but at the same token, sometimes it can be a little bit detrimental too to what we like to do. And we certainly want to continue to create, but boy, we're moving forward kind of cautiously, hoping that this isn't the start of something
that snowballs.
Yeah, and we won't know that, I guess. But ironically, the block that was talked about was my faith block, and the only thing that I could keep telling myself last night as I pondered all of what had been said was that I knew with every fiber in my being that it was a block that I had hand drawn out on my cutting counter in Clare City at Shades of the Past Quilt Shop, and I had not copied anybody, but the only people that knew that were God and I. And
probably me.
Probably Lacey, yeah. So anyway, we don't want to leave that on a downer note, but we also want you to know that sometimes designing, we do it in the best intent, and we're starting from scratch using our fabric, our wool, whatever medium that we're working with, and we're creating what's given to us by the good Lord up above, and hoping that it doesn't look like something that somebody else did. And if it does, if it looks a lot like something somebody else did, like Lacey said, it isn't anything that we ever published. So on that note, the last one that we're going to show you is this little block right here. And so every once in a while we'll get an email in the inbox that says, wow, we're looking for a quilt block. Would you like to design a quilt block for our book? And we've done it a couple of times. So this is, yes, an original quilt block design that I did out of a little mini charm pack.
Plus it's got these little guys are open.
And it came back to us about 2 years later with a, oh, sorry, it doesn't meet our criteria.
Thanks,
so
but no thanks.
This may be a new block that we will soon to create a new quilt out of. And I don't think I have a whole lot more for anybody this week. How about you?
I don't. No. And plus, I haven't worked on anything new, so I should probably get my needles and gear.
Well, I would think. A cool night like we're having tonight would be a perfect night to be stitching up a storm.
Maybe too many mosquitoes to do that, but we could still go in and stitch up a storm.
Yes, we could. And next week we will probably be taking a look at Quilt Minnesota quilts that we designed over the years.
Oh, I'm excited for that. We've got some really fun stuff to look at and some really funny stories to share with some of those quilts.
So till next week, woohoo, the tax season will be over with. And we hope you have a great week, and we look forward to next Wednesday night.